The silence in the room was heavier than any argument. It pressed against the walls, settled into the corners, and wrapped itself around the elderly woman sitting quietly at the table. Across from her, her grandson, young, wealthy, admired, scrolled through his phone with effortless confidence. To anyone watching, it looked like an ordinary family moment. But beneath the surface, something fragile was being ignored, and tonight, that neglect would finally be seen. She was his grandmother, the woman who had raised him when his parents were too busy surviving to notice him. She was also deaf, living in a world shaped by expressions, gestures, and patience. For years, she had learned to accept that most people spoke over her, not to her. Tonight was no different. She tried to catch her grandson's attention, lifting her hands slightly, her eyes warm and hopeful. He glanced up, smiled briefly, then turned away again, asking someone else to explain things to her. It wasn't cruelty in his mind, just efficiency. He believed love could exist without attention. The restaurant buzzed softly with conversation and clinking dishes. At their table, the grandmother folded her hands in her lap, her smile thinning but never disappearing. She had learned long ago not to demand space in rooms that didn't make room for her. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, laughing with friends, unaware that every ignored moment added weight to a distance he refused to see. Success meant moving forward quickly. Looking back felt unnecessary. Then someone noticed the waitress had been moving between tables all evening, carrying plates and refilling glasses, but something about the grandmother's stillness caught her eye. It wasn't just the silence, it was the way she watched people, as if standing behind glass. When their eyes met, the waitress paused. Instead of asking an order, she smiled gently and raised her hands. Her fingers moved with purpose, forming words the grandmother instantly understood. The change was immediate. The grandmother's face brightened, her posture lifting as if a light had been switched on inside her. Her hands responded eagerly, telling stories, asking questions, laughing without sound but full of joy. The table slowly grew quiet. Conversations stopped. The millionaire frowned, finally looking up, not in anger, but confusion. He watched as a stranger connected with his grandmother in a way he hadn't bothered to try. Felt exposed, though no one said a word. The waitress listened carefully, nodding, responding with warmth and respect. She treated every gesture as important, every expression as meaningful. The grandmother reached out and gently held her hands, gratitude shining in her eyes. That simple exchange stirred something uncomfortable in the young man's chest. He had built companies, closed deals, and commanded rooms, but he had failed at the simplest act of care. Memories surfaced uninvited. Late nights when his grandmother waited up for him. Meals she prepared with love. The patience she showed when the world felt overwhelming. All those moments returned at once, now contrasted by his indifference. For the first time, he questioned whether success had cost him something far more valuable than time. As the waitress stepped away, the grandmother looked at her grandson and signed slowly, carefully, making sure he understood even if he couldn't read every word. His weren't accusing. They were hopeful. That hurt more than anger ever could. He lowered his phone. For the first time that night, he leaned forward, not as a millionaire, not as a busy man, but as a grandson who suddenly realized he had been listening to the wrong kind of silence all along. The quiet that followed stayed with him long after the restaurant emptied. On the drive home, city lights blurred past his window, but his thoughts were fixed on the image of his grandmother's hands moving with careful grace, and the way he had looked away for years. She sat beside him now, calm as ever, watching the world pass by. He wanted to speak, to explain, but words suddenly felt inadequate. For the first time, he realized how often she must have felt that way. Home, he poured himself a glass of water and sat across from her at the kitchen table. Phone stayed in his pocket. The television remained off. He hesitated, then slowly lifted his hands, clumsily repeating the signs he remembered from the restaurant. They weren't perfect. Some were wrong, but they were honest. Grandmother's eyes widened, then softened. She smiled, not the polite smile she used for strangers, but the one meant just for him. She corrected him gently, guiding his hands, patient as she had always been. With every small success, something inside him eased. The distance he had created over the years didn't disappear, but it finally stopped growing. They laughed together, silently but deeply, sharing a moment that felt long overdue. Understood then that connection wasn't about convenience, it was about effort. The next day, he returned to the restaurant alone. He asked for the waitress, unsure of what he would say when she appeared. When she did, he thanked her, simply, sincerely. He told her she had reminded him of something he should never have forgotten. She listened quietly, then shrugged with a gentle smile. She explained she learned sign language from her younger brother, who hated being treated like he wasn't there. Everyone deserves to be seen, she signed softly. Those words followed him everywhere. Weeks passed, and change showed itself in small, meaningful ways. He hired a tutor to learn sign language properly. He redesigned family gatherings so his grandmother was always included. He slowed down, listened more. At meetings, at dinners, in life, success no longer felt like speed, it felt like presence. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, his grandmother reached for his hand and signed something that stayed with him forever. She told him she had always been proud of him, not because of what he achieved, but because she believed he was kind. He swallowed hard, realizing kindness wasn't something you owned. It was something you practiced. And somewhere across town, a waitress finished her shift, unaware that a single moment of empathy had reshaped an entire family. The millionaire never forgot her lesson: real wealth isn't measured by what you earn, but by who you choose not to ignore.